Welcome to the Subway Conversation Chat. My name is Jamie Malloy, and I'm here to talk some Yankees Mets baseball with you all and my co host, Joe Dalio. So, folks, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
It is going very well. It is opening day eve. And again, the day before, one of my favorite days of the sports calendar. I'm sure yours too. But I am doing very well and I'm very excited about that. How are you doing tonight, Jamie?
Good. I mean, like I said, the Yankees are starting, but sorry about your Mets getting postponed. But hey, that's how it is when you start out New York City baseball in March. So
In March, exactly. But it actually works out well for me because, the game was scheduled for 1:10 tomorrow, which I would not have been able to watch that game. But I happen to be off on Good Friday, the day it's rescheduled for, and I got nothing on my calendar. So I'll actually be able to watch opening day, which I wouldn't have been able to do if it was on the regularly scheduled day. So I don't have a problem waiting another day, especially that I get to see the game.
yeah, and the good news is with the Yankees is they're starting out in Houston, playing in a state like Texas, where they're playing in a enclosed roof ballpark, so Minute Maid
Yeah,
Park.
exactly. And if it's nice enough, perhaps they'll have the roof open down at Minute Maid.
Right, exactly. So, anyway, Joe, uh, would you like to get started with your Mets highlights? With tomorrow being the MLB's opening day, most teams we have a lot to cover. So, you want to get us started?
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. Thank you. And some news going on with the Mets. Right after we spoke, we had our first show last Wednesday. And then I think it was a day or two after that, a big signing for them that I don't think anybody saw coming here. Some guy named JD Martinez coming to town. And with the Red Sox, I'd always, the announcers would be JD Martinez. So I'll be calling him that throughout the season. But a little bit of a surprise, that they got him. And I guess I didn't know they were in discussions with him. I think the Giants were the leading candidate to get him, which would have been ironic since the last team he was on was the Dodgers. But, I just found out that the Mets got in there late and snagged him. Now he's starting in the minor leagues. I was a little bit surprised to see that, but I guess, just to get into baseball shape, perhaps. So that's I think a good signing for them. At first, I was a little curious about it because, a lot of times veteran players that have played in places like Boston struggle a little bit at Citi Field. It's not the easiest place to hit home runs, and of course, JD being a little bit older, so question that. But he's the type of guy that can hit it to all around the field, to all places, on the field. So it's not necessarily that he's just a home run hitter, that pulls to left field. So, I think that's a good signing for him. No offense to the DHs they had, like, Vogelbach and a couple of the guys they had last year. They made their contributions, even though they were a little inconsistent. But I think JD's going to be an upgrade as far as designated hitter, which I assume is where he'll be playing most of the time, if not all the time, for the Mets. So I'm excited to see him get in the lineup. He's already looking forward to being here. He's a veteran. He said he's looking forward to being a leader. So he's going to be a good locker room guy, hopefully. So I think that was a very big signing for them, and I really think that he's going to be a lot more of a help to them, especially at that DH spot. A couple other things surprised me. They have a young player, Mark Vientos. I talked about him last week, and he was with the team for a good part of last year, and he was inconsistent. He's got a lot of potential, and there's a high upside with him. But he sent to the minors a couple of days ago, I believe, which is a little bit of a surprise. Because it looked like he was going to be, somebody that they can count on in the lineup. But his spring training statistics were very good. In fact, he led the team in home runs. I think he had 5. And, his batting average was a little lower, but he had like a 795 OPS, which is certainly respectable, certainly higher than a majority of the team. So I was a little surprised with that. Now, when I looked up and read some things, they said that, he was surprised and he wasn't happy about it. And the team said, well, good, we want players that don't want to be happy with being sent down. And, some of his teammates were supporting him. I guess Brett Beatty is a good friend of his. And he said, look, it's not a big deal. He's not on the roster for opening day. So what? He will be with this team at some point. And I do agree with that. I really think he will be. Some of the stuff I read said, the Mets were more concerned about his fielding. They said he could certainly continue to improve his hitting. But they said the main reason they sent him down was to work on his fielding. So, that could have some kind of impact. And if that's the case, they gave him a lot of credit and said, hey, he's the type of guy that knows what he's got to do and will go out of his way to do those things and improve and tear it up in the minors and, get himself back on the major league team as soon as possible. I do believe we will see him on the Mets in the near future. As far as other things are concerned, there's still some positional battles that had been going on. A relief pitcher, there was a couple of spots open, and I'm blanking on names here, so I'm going to try to get to it. I know Sean Reed Foley was one of the names. He was on the team last year, and he's battling for one of the spots. He's on the roster now, but that is not set in stone. So I'm just looking at the 40-man here. There's who is it? Johan Ramirez is one guy that they say has a good chance to make the team. And then Michael Tonkin, I think they had said that he's going to make the team. So there's one spot left for Reed Foley or for Ramirez. And of course, they're totally household names. I'm sure all of our audience has heard of these pitching studs here. But that they have, some competition going on and hopefully these guys can make some contributions to the team. Going back to Vientos, he was going to be kind of a utility infielder. And one of the other reasons too, they said, look, they want him playing every day. And so that's another reason, and they sent him to Syracuse, is so he will be playing every day there and getting the experience that he needs. So the main backup or utility guy is Zach Short, who's been around a little bit, and, nothing to write home about, but again, a good utility guy. Same with Joey Wendell that they picked up, a veteran utility guy as well. So, excuse me, they again, they can make contributions, and it's just a matter, of time to see, how these guys contribute. So, that's basically what's going on. I mean, they're ready to go. And again, they got to wait 24 more hours to get the first game in, but things are exciting. And again, we'll talk about expectations and predictions and stuff in a little bit, and the expectations for the Mets aren't high, but and I guess I could share about that now. I mean, like I said, we're going to get into league-wide predictions too, but I think, and pretty much Vegas thinks, and most experts think, that the Mets are going to be a 500 team. And I said before that I'm okay with that in a way, as long as we see a team that plays with heart, which for the first 2/3 of last year we did not see. So play entertaining baseball, play it the right way, and if that means they win a few less games, then I'm not going to have a problem with that. Worst case scenario and best case scenario too. I could see the Mets winning 81, 82 games, or anywhere within a few of 500. Now I'll talk about the bad news first. I guess worst case scenario, I could see them falling significantly short of that. Winning somewhere around 73, 75 games or something like that. And then, of course, that leads to the whole Pete Alonso thing, which I've discussed as well, and is still a concern of mine and will be all year. And, if they are not playing anywhere close to playoff baseball, what happens at the trade deadline? Does his motivation to stay disappear? What happens with that whole thing? And is he with the team at the end of the year? If they have a subpar season. So, that's the worst case scenario for the Mets. If you want to look at the best case scenario, you're winning 85, 86 games and you're a wild card team and you're in the playoffs. Although I think it's more likely that the Mets don't make the playoffs than that they do. It's not out of the question. And it's definitely something that, again, if things go right, and pretty much everything's going to have to go right, which, again, winning 85, 86 games is not out of the question. And making the playoffs in the National League with 85, 86 wins is not out of the question. So I think Mets fans have something to hope for. I don't think the division is in reach. You got the Braves that are too difficult in there. Even the Phillies are a potential. If the Braves weren't in the division, I mean, the Phillies could be a division-winning club. So, I don't see anything close to a division championship, but there's no reason Mets fans can't be optimistic and hope for at least a playoff spot. So, that's, I think, where we're at now, and, time will tell. So, I'm sorry. I think I've talked enough here for one breath and for one segment here. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Jamie, and what's going on in Yankees world, and are they ready to go for opening day?
Yes, they are, Joe, and you did a great job. That was not a lot. You need to.
Right, thank you.
It's important to talk in this podcast, and you share as much as you can, as long as it's necessary to share. That's how I am too. So anyway, in Yankees world, let's take a look at the injury updates. We have a big injury update here, and it's concerning DJ LeMahieu. He has been sidelined since March 16th, since fouling a ball off his foot. LeMahieu will start the season on the IL as announced by everybody's favorite scapegoat / Yankees GM, Brian Cashman, although I still pledge my allegiance to Cashman. So that might make some Yankees fans uncomfortable, but facts don't care about your feelings. So anyway, he's also expected to miss at least the first 7 games of the season. He did have an MRI and CAT scan on his foot last week, and both tests came back negative. So we give the big thumbs up to that there, Yankee Nation. We will also have a follow-up MRI to see how his foot is progressing. And I'm pretty sure that it'll progress well, but we'll see. And luckily, though, Oswaldo Cabrera is likely going to start in LeMahieu's absence at third base. And I'm fine with that. Oswaldo Cabrera is a budding young future star in this league, and he's gotten better each year since 2022. And I think he could fill in nicely for LeMahieu while he's hurt, and possibly could be the potential permanent long-term starter if they choose not to re-sign LeMahieu, but that's here nor there. Anyway, the Bronx Bombers will lead off with Gleyber Torres against lefties and Alex Verdugo against righties in LeMahieu's absence. Now, with Garrett Cole being out for the first few months of the season as he heals from an inflammation of his elbow, the pitching candidates fighting for the job were Luis Gil, a.k.a. throws 100 miles an hour, Will Warren, Luke, not Jared or Jeff Weaver. I don't think there's any relation there. Maybe he's a third cousin or something, but I don't know. Clayton Beater and Cody Petit. And your winner is Luis Gil, the guy who can just gun 100 miles an hour and has a wicked fastball. Kind of reminds me of Randy Johnson, except he's right-handed. He placed 2.87 ERA with 23 strikeouts at 15 2/3 innings during spring training. While showing off his very fast four-seam fastball, his chasing slider, and much improved changeup, Gil was the obvious choice. And while the Yankees will be traveling to Houston for a 4-game series, let's look at the New York Yankees planned opening day roster. The New York Yankees must change their opening day starting pitcher now that Garrett Cole has an elbow injury. But there's no fear. Have no fear. Nasty Nestor Cortez is here. As Nestor Cortez will take the honors of starting at the mound, and the Yankees will have to change things up while taking on the Houston Astros. But Nestor's an awesome pitcher, and he's ready for this moment, as he said during some spring training off the field interviews. Now let's take a look. Let's talk about the opening lineup. First we start with. Sorry, hold on, folks. Sorry for the delay. Here we go. First, we start out with catchers. Sorry, folks, had to get the script there right, but I got it. Thank you for my manager here. Catchers, we start out, we have two of them. We have Jose Trevino and Austin Wells. And Trevino appears to be healthy and is going to be the starting catcher as he hit a home run in his first Grapefruit League game. Wells has improved tremendously as a defender, but the question is, will it be good enough to beat out Ben Robador to the second catcher, as Robador is not eligible to be sent down to the minors anymore? And first baseman, without a doubt, is going to be Anthony Rizzo, R to the Izzo, E to the Izze. Rizzo's concussion has seemed to clear the clouds from his head. And if his impressive spring training numbers translate into the regular season, Rizzo is the odds for comeback player of the year without a question. Mm-hmm. Next, we have one second baseman, Gleyber Torres. Torres is coming off a productive 2023. The 27-year-old batted .273 with 25 homers and 68 RBIs in 158 games played. Now he's entering a contract year in 2024. This year, Torres leads the Yankees in batting average, hits with 165, extra base hits with 55, 28 doubles, and 463 multi-hit games. Next is shortstop is none other than the second-year man, Mr. Anthony Volpe. The second-year player changed his swing during the offseason to add more power to his swing and hopefully reduce less strikeouts. Hitting coach James Rosen said, when you have a player who is this good of an athlete who makes an adjustment, you better watch out. And then for third baseman, obvious, it's Oswaldo Cabrera. He'll be the starter with an injury to LeMahieu's right foot. LeMahieu will be out for at least a week, which means Cabrera, you're going to be thrown to the wolves right away, and we're going to love watching you tomorrow. So do well for us. Next, we have, or finally to round out, we have the outfielders, and we have four excellent outfielders, starting with Aaron. All rise to the judge. We have Juan, and I got this, Soto. And his swagger's so right. We have Alex Verdugo, a.k.a. Hopefully the next Jacoby Ellsbury or Johnny Damon, the next former Red Sox that the Yankees cop from and becomes an all-star. And then we also, Judge came back in the lineup Wednesday after serving his abdominal pain injury. And Soto is already in regular season form with 4 home runs. He's got a swing so smooth. And then Alex Verdugo is expected to be in left field. And then with Trent Grissom earning time there when Judge is DH. So a lot of competition for people to come in and compete and play right away for the Yankees.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Same thing with the Mets. You had that over there too.
Yep.
So just a little fun fact. The team did last Saturday. The Yankees played the Yankees of Mexico last Saturday. In Espanol, Los Los Diablos Rojos del Mexico. And in English, they were the Mexico Red Devils. The idea was pitched years ago when Giancarlo Stanton took a trip to Mexico City. Everywhere the Yankees slugger went, including a Bad Bunny concert, men and women were donning the New York caps on. The Yankees or the Bombarderos played in pinstripes against the Diablos Rojos del Mexico, or the Mexican Red Devils, and lost 4-3, meaning 4-3 in Spanish. And Joe, how do you like my Spanish there? I mean, you're a Spanish teacher. So.
I'm a Spanish teacher. I give you an A+ on that.
Thanks. Gracias. It was pretty awesome out there, Stanton said after the Yankees 4-3 loss. The atmosphere was great throughout the game. It felt like the fans were engaged the whole time. They were excited. It was fun. The crowd was pumped and energetic and noisy. Mariano Rivera, a.k.a. Enter Sandman, threw the ceremonial first pitch to teammate Robbie Cano, young Jano, as John Sterling would say. Anyway, the fans cheered when Yankees shortstop Anthony Volpe flew out at first in the first inning, and the Yankees trailed 4-0, but made a late run in the ninth, and in which the Red Devils ended up winning 4-3, 4-3. And it was also the ball club's first visit to Mexico City since March 1968, which was Mickey Mantle's farewell season with the New York Yankees.
Wow.
Incredible stuff there. Now let's move on to our MLB predictions, Joe, as you want. So here are my rankings for the divisions. We begin with the AL East. In first place, I have the New York Yankees going 101-61. I think they can easily win over 90 games as FanDuel has them if their lineup can stay healthy and their pitching rotation plays as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, we have the Baltimore Orioles, 98-64. And this is a team that may take a step back, but could still be a deadly team in the playoffs with all the young players they have.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, we have Vlad Guerrero Jr. and now Ernie Clement from Brighton, his Toronto Blue Jays, going 94-68 in third place. In fourth place, we got the Tampa Bay Rays, and they're always going to be fourth place, playing at that fifth place ballpark of theirs, that fucking Tropicana Field. What a joke that arena is. Hopefully they can finally get a new ballpark that they're planning on building. I got them going 89-73, and that's generous. And number five, sorry, Boston Red Sox fans, you might be singing Sweet Caroline in the bottom of the seventh inning like you always do, but you're really not going to be singing I Love That Dirty Water that much, as I got you going 82-80, finishing in last place like the Yankees did last year. And anyway, let's move on to the AL West. I have the Texas Rangers winning in first place with a 107-55 record.
Wow.
Yep. Number two, we have the Houston Astros at 162. Three, I have the Los Angeles Angels going 96-66.
Wow.
Number four, I have the Seattle Mariners going 85-78. And Oakland. Are you ever going to move to Vegas or not? Because it looks like your ballpark rendering showing you are. And I'm going to be nice to you because right now you're playing in probably one of the worst cities in America, and you're about to move to one of the best. So I'm going to give you a generous 73-89 record for that.
Wow, that is very generous, I think.
But Joe, do you want to do your predictions for the American League after I do the AL Central?
Yeah. All right. Why don't you do the whole American League, and then I'll go with my American League.
Okay. And for the AL Central, I have the Minnesota Twins finishing first. They're my former Red Wings affiliates for 18 years. I got them going 97-65. Number two, I got the Cleveland Guardians going 93-69. 3, I have the Chicago White Sox going 90 and 72. 4, I got the Detroit Tigers going 86 and 76.
Wow.
And lastly, I got the Kansas City Royals at 83 and 81. But that could be a big improvement with a lot of young players and potentially moving to a new ballpark. I think Royals fans won't be upset there.
Right.
You ready for your ALs?
Yeah, I am ready. Now, I agree with a lot of those predictions. And before I get into mine, I wanted to ask you, just go back a little bit. You were talking about the Yankees and their updates and stuff like that. How concerned are you about the whole Garrett Cole thing? You know, I'm hearing two sides here. I'm hearing what you said pretty much, and I've heard other people say that, and the fact that, well, it's just going to be a little thing that he can't pitch for, can't throw for a month or whatever, and he'll be back in a month or two. Or I got people still sounding alarm bells for, Tommy John and things like that, and talking about the worst case scenario. How worried are you that he doesn't pitch at all this year?
I'm not worried about that because he already said he doesn't. They already said he doesn't require Tommy John as long as he just sits back and lets our deep rotation without him pitch. I think
Okay.
Cole will be pitching again this year.
All right, good. And again, the team is better. Baseball's better with him pitching. So hopefully, that is what happens here. So now I didn't go as in depth as you as come up with records. Excuse me. I can come up with some. I've looked into this and studied this, and from our football show, and people that know me, they know I love predictions, and I think about this stuff all the time. So now I'm on the Mets side of things here, but I'm going to agree with you as far as your AL East division winner. I really see the Yankees winning this. I don't see them winning over 100 games. I see them winning maybe 95, somewhere in there. But I do see the Yankees winning the division. And you took the words right out of my mouth, too. I think the Orioles take a little step back. I think they, maybe 90, I don't know, low 90s perhaps, they win here. I still think the Orioles are a playoff team. So they'd be one of my wild cards in that division. The Toronto Blue Jays, third place. I think high 80s win total. I think I had them on the outside of the playoff bubble. Because I got a couple other teams in there. So Blue Jays are the type of team that, can end up in last place in that division or win that division. It depends if they can get everything together with all the talent they have on this team. They're fully capable of winning that division. But I just don't see it happening. Again, I see upper 80s, third place. Tampa Rays, fourth place. Again, another team that it's not out of the question that they win that division, and it's not out of the question that they end up in last place. Red Sox are the only team I don't see, in the playoffs or anywhere near the division title. I see them as a below 500 team, 77, 78 games, 77 and whatever 162 divided by 77 is. But I see them winning about upper 70s there. All right, so if we go to the West, excuse me, I'm going to disagree a little bit with you. I still see the Astros winning that division. I think the Astros are the class of the American League still after all these years. And I know people are kind of sick of seeing them there, a lot of people anyway. But I think the Astros take that division. And I think the Texas Rangers end up in a close second. By the way, the Astros win maybe about mid-90s, like the Yankees, about 95 games, something like that. I think the Rangers are close, maybe 2 or 3 games below. And I think the Rangers are their wild card team again. They're one of the wild cards there. And then I think third place, Seattle Mariners, I think they're going to be the third wild card. They've been knocking at the door there. They did make the playoffs a couple of years ago and performed decent. And I still don't think they're ready for prime time and winning the division yet, but I see them as the third place team and the third wild card. And then who else we got in that? The Angels, I don't see them doing well at all. I see them winning about 75 games, maybe. And then you got the A's there. And I think I was hoping I could say, that they maybe get over or get below the 100 loss mark, but I could see them going like 62 and 100 basically. So I think they're going to hit triple digits as losses. Yeah, again, it just stinks that they have that whole limbo situation there with Vegas, and it's still a sin in my opinion that they're leaving Oakland. I mean, again, Vegas is a great city and it's up and coming, but you got so much history there with the A's, and I'd still like to see them find a way to stay there. But again, they're going to be one of the worst teams in baseball. I think the worst team in the American League as well. So, hopefully they'll take steps forward. So if we go to the AL Central, I think by default, the Minnesota Twins win that division with about 88 wins. I don't see them being a really strong team. So I'd say 88 and 74. Cleveland ends up in second. Again, they're not a playoff team. And then you got teams like Detroit and Kansas City that are in the middle of the mix there, that there's a lot of people that are pretty high on the Royals bandwagon. I don't see it yet. I think they're going to be improved and, again, get in the 70s as far as win total, maybe even around 500. But I don't think they're ready to compete for playoffs just yet. Same with the Tigers. I think you'll see some improvements. And they said some of these young guys that they've been banking on for a couple of years were hitting in spring training. So if that happens, and if the, Green and what's his name, Torkelson and people like that, if they can continue to improve, then the Tigers, and they got some good pitchers on that team too. So they can make some improvements and maybe get, 500 or a couple of games over. But again, I don't think they're ready to compete for playoffs just yet. One of the worst teams in the American League, I think, will be the Chicago White Sox. And you had them for a pretty high win total. I think they're lucky if they crack 70 wins, to be honest with you. I could see them going like, 70 and 92, or, even, 68 and 90 or 74. My math is all screwed up here, but 68 and 94. So I really think the White Sox are going to be one of the worst teams in the American League. So, again, I don't know if you want to talk playoffs now or do our National League first and then get into playoff matchups. But
National, then the playoff.
All right, let's do that then.
Okay, so my predictions for the NL East, this is going to be crazy. This is a bumpy ride, Joe.
All right, I'm listening.
Number one, I got the Atlanta Braves winning it, going 103 and 59. I have the Philadelphia Phillies in second, going 162. Third, I have the Mets going 99 and 63.
Wow.
I think they're going to surprise people because, like, as you said, winning 85 games, and with the way that the wild card teams have been able to knock out the Dodgers and some of these other teams in the playoffs the past few years, the Mets could be one of those candidates besides the Phillies to pull off an upset or two.
That's
Number
true.
4, I got the Washington Nationals. I think they're going to be an improved team because they had a lot of young guys from the Red Wings get called up at the end of the year. And they're probably going to have the kid this year, the guy they drafted number 2 overall in 2023, that kid. So he'll probably be up with the Nationals. I got him going 84 and 78.
Okay.
That's Dylan Cruz, the kid's name is, by the way.
Okay.
Cruz.
Yeah, I know who you were talking about, but I was blanking on the name too.
And then number 5, I got the Miami Marlins going 81 and 81.
Wow.
Now moving on to the NL Central, I got the Chicago Cubs going 87 and 75, winning it.
Okay.
Number 2, I have the Cincinnati Reds going 84 and 78. Number 3, I got the Pittsburgh Pirates at 82 and 80. I think their young talent is going to take them up another step this year towards probably making the wild card the year after that, or competing for that division.
That would be nice.
Yes, it would. Number 4, I got the Milwaukee Brewers at 81 and 81. And finally, another team that is going to be below 500, but they're going to be improved because of all the young guys they played last year. The St. Louis Cardinals going 80 and 82. And as for the NL West, this is kind of cut and dry right here. Number 1 is obviously the Los Angeles Dodgers, 110, 52, best regular season team in the league, but hasn't found a way to get it done in the playoffs. Number 2, the San Diego Padres, always the most underrated team in the regular season, but finds a way to make a run in the National League. I got them going second with 96 and 66. Number 3, the Arizona Diamondbacks, who made a surprise run to the World Series where they eventually lost to the Rangers, going 93 and 69. And then lastly, I have the San Francisco Giants going 90 and 72.
Okay.
So what about you then?
All right. So I'll take the National League East. And again, I think everybody is taking Braves here, and deservedly so. I mean, the Braves are still the class of the division. I see them winning over 100 games, maybe I'd say about 101. But I think they're definitely the class of the division. Now, the Phillies are a solid team. And again, they're in any other division, they could be a division-winning team. I don't think that the Phillies win this division, but I think they're a strong second-place team. I think they're definitely one of the wild cards in the National League. And they're one of the more fun teams to watch, as pretty much the whole country has seen in the last couple of years, making that World Series run 2 years ago, and then having another excellent regular season last year. And a lot of people said should have gone back to the World Series, just lost those last 2 home games. They were unbeatable in Philadelphia in the playoffs for 2 years, and then all of a sudden couldn't win those last 2 games. So, again, I watched them a few times, throughout the year, and thankful to be a T-Mobile customer, by the way, because T-Mobile is giving us the free MLB TV for the season again. So I get to watch all the games throughout the league, which is great. So I'm thankful to T-Mobile for that. But throw in a little commercial there in the middle of my predictions. But Phillies are, again, one of the stronger teams in the National League, and certainly, a playoff contender and World Series contender as well. I think the Mets are third place. And again, if all goes right and they can get into the mid-80s as far as win totals, I could see them possibly being a wild card team. I'm going to say no at this point, but still, I think the Mets are going to play some good baseball. I agree with what you said about the Washington Nationals. I think the Marlins will come out ahead of them, but it's very possible that the Nationals can end up in fourth. I think the Marlins will be a little, have a lesser win total than last year. And I think the Nationals will have a higher win total. And I think, like you said, that we're going to see some definite improvement there and some great young players on that team. So that's what I see in that division. I mean, nothing earth-shattering. I think the weakest division in baseball is going to be, I think the weakest division in baseball is the American League Central, but I think the National League Central is pretty weak as well. However, I think you got a couple more teams that could possibly win this division. My prediction is the Chicago Cubs. I agree with what you said there. I don't think they get more than, maybe 85, 86 wins to win this division. But again, they'll be a solid team and certainly one to be reckoned with come playoff time. I see a big improvement with the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm picking them for second place, and I'm picking them for one of the wild card spots, third wild card spot. So I think the Cardinals will be back in the playoffs this year, and you'll see a very improved team there. The Cincinnati Reds, I think, will pretty much have the same situation as they did last year. They're going to be one of the more exciting teams in baseball to watch. I think they're making great strides as these more younger players pour in from their system. And I think they're going to be in the playoff hunt for a good part of the season. And I think they come up just short, coming up a game or two above 500, but not quite good enough to make the playoffs, but at least being in the hunt until the end of the season. I think the Brewers take a step down. I think everybody's expecting that, especially I think losing Craig Counsell is going to make more of a difference than people think. And I think just, the talent, they've lost some really good players, really good pitchers. And, they had a good run there for a little while and they ruled that division for a little while, but, windows close, as we always say. And I think their time has come where they're going to take a few steps back and it's time to go back to the drawing board for them. And, I agree with what you said about the Pirates. I don't see them over 500 like you mentioned, but I think we're going to see some improvement there. And I think they're going to be a fun team to watch and a team that competes. And again, I don't see them close as far as the playoff picture is concerned, but if a lot of things go right, then who knows? Maybe they can get into that conversation. But, again, a pretty weak division. But, again, if things go right for the Cubs, for the Cardinals, even for the Reds, any one of those teams can win it. But I'm picking the Cubs in this case. And if you go to the National League West, you're not going to believe what I'm going to say here. The Los Angeles Dodgers will win the National League West. And of course, I'm being sarcastic because the whole world knows that they're going to. I could see them winning maybe 104, 105 games. So, again, they're the class of the league. And, as I said before, I hate the playoff system that they have because I want to see teams, that perform well in the regular season get the chance to win the World Series. But more on World Series in a couple of minutes, but the Dodgers all around, the only weakness they may have is starting pitching because of some injuries and certain, there's still not sure, I guess, what the mix is going to be, what the rotation is going to be. But really, I mean, the Dodgers, again, people might get concerned. Maybe they get off to a slow start and, hopefully this gambling thing with Ohtani doesn't get in the way. And hopefully what he's saying is true, because that would really be a black cloud over the Dodgers if there's something more to it. If you want the truth, I would tend to believe him. And I think he's just the victim of some bad treatment here. But hopefully everything he's saying is true and that doesn't come into play. I think this is a very good division here. I think the Arizona Diamondbacks, I thought were kind of overrated last year. And I think they come in fourth place and don't even make the playoffs this year. I think, again, they had no business being in the World Series last year. Again, that I hate the new playoff format that's been in since it expanded. And, they got to find ways to reward the better teams. Instead of, again, just a mediocre team going on a hot streak late in the season and all of a sudden they're a World Series team. I don't think so. Again, this year, I don't think they're a playoff team. I think both the Padres and the Giants are ahead of them. I think the Padres come in second place and they end up being the second wild card in the National League. I think they're going to be a lot better than people might expect. They were kind of overrated the last couple of years. And I think this year they might actually be a little underrated. I think the Giants make a major playoff push as well. I would not be surprised if the Giants get in. I'm predicting that they don't. But I really think they're going to be another one of those teams that's right there competing for a playoff spot, until the end. And, last place, I think the Colorado Rockies are the 100-game loser of the National League. So, really not much to discuss there. Hopefully, they'll have some good young players that maybe get some experience and bring them to a little bit of a higher level. But right now, certainly, I'd say the worst team in the National League.
Yeah, well, thank you, Joe, for your predictions there. Let's move on to the wild card teams. We're going to start out here with the AL wildcard teams. My first wildcard team is the Houston Astros, the runners-up of the AL West, going 162. And I have the Baltimore Orioles, the second wildcard team, the runners-up of the AL East, going 98-64. And my third one is that Los Angeles Angels going 96-66, the
Wow.
runners-up of the AL West.
Okay, that's a bold one.
And for the NL, I got the Philadelphia Phillies, the runners-up of the NL East as the first wild card team, going 162. The second one, I got the New York Mets, the third place team in the NL East, 99-63. And my third one are the San Diego Padres, runners-up of the AL West, 96-66.
Okay.
What about your
And
wild card teams?
yeah, now I did mention too, I think we'll start with the American League. I'm trying to think. I would pick the Texas Rangers as the number one wild card team. Again, because I picked the Astros to win that division. I like the Orioles as the second wild card, and then the Seattle Mariners as the third. And then in the National League, who did I have? Phillies as the top wild card. Then I have the Padres as the second wild card, and the St. Louis Cardinals as the third.
Okay, so now let's actually go through what we think the whole playoffs and what we think is gonna win the World Series. So for the AL wild card spot, we have Minnesota, who's going to be the third seed, and the winners of the AL Central taking on the Los Angeles Angels, the sixth seed. And I have Minnesota winning that 2-1 or possibly 3-0 against the Angels.
Okay.
And the second Houston wild card, I have number 4 Houston Astros taking on the number 5 Baltimore Ravens. And without a doubt, I think the Astros sweep Baltimore. They win 3-0. So that sets up, that would be Houston. It would be Texas and Houston for the first ALDS. And then the second ALDS, I would have the Yankees and Minnesota, with the Yankees being the 2 seed and Minnesota being the 3 seed. I have the Yankees beating Minnesota 4-1 to advance to the ALCS. And then I have the Texas Rangers beating the Astros 3-2, which sets up the number 1 and number 2 teams in the AL battling for the ALCS. And for the NL wild card, I have the Philadelphia Phillies, who are the 4, against the Mets, who are the 5. And I think the Philly beats the Mets 2-1. That'll be a close series, which then the Phillies would take on the Braves, because the Phillies are the number 4 they're the number 6. Sorry, they're the 6.
Okay.
I think, right? And they would be taking on the Braves, who are the number 2 seed there. And I think the Phillies beat the Braves 4-3.
Wow.
Which sets up, well, first of all, then, well, actually, I wanted to have the Dodgers and the Braves in the NLCS, and I got the Braves beating that's the AL. Yeah, that's the ALCS.
Yeah, you were right.
I got the Braves beating the Dodgers in the ALDS 3-2, and then I have the Phillies beating the Braves 4-3 to advance to the World Series.
Wow.
And then which leaves the ALCS to the Rangers and the Yankees. And I think the Texas Rangers beat the Yankees 4-3. I think it goes to 7. And then I think the Rangers beat the Phillies in the World Series 4-2. So my World Series is the Rangers are going to repeat back to back. What about you?
All right. I like those predictions. They're good. They're bold and certainly not out of the question. So All right, so I'm doing this from my head here. So, excuse me, based on my prediction. So, who'd you start with? National League?
Yeah, I did.
All right. So, again, I got my division winners as the Braves, the Cubs, and the Dodgers. So, my first round matchup would be the Cardinals against the Cubs. And I think the Cubs win that.
And that's a 3 versus 6, that would be, right? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I got the Padres playing against the Phillies, and I got the Padres pulling the upset there.
So 5 beating a 4 there,
Yes.
basically.
So now I think that would have the Padres playing against the Dodgers.
Mhm.
The Dodgers win that series. The Cubs play against the Braves, and I got the Cubs beating the Braves. Again, thanks to the wonderful Major League playoff system here. Now, I'm complaining about this whole playoff system, and it's going to be ironic the way my scenario turns out here. So my National League Championship Series is the Chicago Cubs and the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I have the Dodgers winning that series like 4-1. The Dodgers going to the World Series. On the other side, in the American League, you got to figure out the Mariners going up against the Twins, and I got the Mariners winning that series. All right, so that would be the 6-3, I guess. Mariners is my third wild card team. So Seattle beats Minnesota, and then who do I have? Texas against Baltimore, and I have the Rangers beating the Orioles there. So now, I think we're going to have Seattle going against Houston, and I got the Astros winning that series, and that would make the Yankees against, who did I say? The Rangers?
Texas.
Yeah, the Yankees against the Rangers, and I have the Yankees beating the Rangers. I know you had Texas beating the Yankees. I got it the other way around. I got the Yankees beating the Rangers. So a movie that we've seen a few times before: New York Yankees, Houston Astros, American League Championship Series. I got the Astros beating the Yankees again in the ALCS. So again, the baseball playoff system is flawed, and it doesn't allow the best teams in. Well, I think that changes this year, or at least maybe it's wishful thinking on my part. I don't know. But I have a replay of 2017. This time, I think the Los Angeles Dodgers, they, amidst all the hype, amidst, again, the flawed system, amidst any gambling clouds, amidst any pitching difficulties, I think they just have way too much talent. They figure it out. They get it done. And the Los Angeles Dodgers, I know this isn't rocket science. And, if this happens, I'm certainly not a genius, because this is what's supposed to happen. But I have the Los Angeles Dodgers beating the Houston Astros in the 2024 World Series.
That's nice. You got the Dodgers finally winning in a flawed system. That's great.
Yes.
And I have the Yankees going far in a far. We both had the Yankees going far in a flawed system too, which is good.
We do. Yeah, no, I have the Braves losing again in the flawed system here. But, whereas normally, they're going to win over 100 games again. I really believe that. But I just, somebody's going to lose. And, it's possible one of these teams makes a run again.
Mhm.
But, we'll see. And, that's what makes it exciting, is
and
that.
Who knows, maybe the flawed system helps the Yankees finally reach the big game. You never know.
Yeah, it's possible. And, again, I don't mind seeing upsets, and I don't mind seeing that. And, I just wish the best teams had the best chance to win in
Right.
the playoffs. And I don't believe that they do. And I certainly hope they change that. I'm going to write a whole article on this, and discuss what my idea would be and stuff like that. But, I honestly wish they'd go back to the one game, have one less wild card, and go back to the 1-game playoff. I know that will absolutely never happen. But I mean, that I thought it was perfect that way. You got the 1-game playoff, which was very exciting in itself. If you didn't want to be in a 1-game playoff, well, then go win your division, and you don't have to worry about it. But still, the way it was set up, and I think, still gave the best teams the best chance to win. And again, if the best team has the best chance to win and they don't, and a lesser team wins, then hats off to them. And that's sports, and that's why they play these games. And we're watching a basketball tournament now where great teams are losing to these teams that nobody's ever heard of, but that's what makes it exciting. But there's a situation where the NCAA March Madness, the best teams got the best chance to win, and things evened out there. Last year there was all these crazy low-seeded teams coming up and playing in the Final Four and things like that, and this year the cream rose to the top, and the best teams are in there. I honestly think that's going to happen for the most part in the baseball playoffs this year, that even though the best teams don't have the best chance to win, I think they will, and we'll see two of the better teams in baseball, the Dodgers and the Astros, in the World Series.
Okay. Yep. So it is now that time for our show, Joe, for our question of the week segment. So, Joe, would you like to give it a try?
I would like to give it a try, and I missed the first one, so I'm ready for redemption here.
Okay, Joe, so here's your question. So Mickey Mantle was elected to the Hall of Fame on January 16th, 1974. Which of Mantle's teammates was also elected that same year? Is it Roger Maris, Elston Howard, Phil Rizzuto, holy cow, or number 4, Whitey Ford?
Oh, I am going to say, since they played, at the whole time, I'm going to say Roger Maris.
Nope. The correct answer was Whitey Ford.
Whitey Ford. Okay. I wouldn't have expected that one, because I thought he played a little bit, earlier, and would have maybe got the nomination a couple of years earlier. So, all right, 0 for 2. So I got some more redemption to do next week.
That's okay. Well, it looks like we come to the end of our show, folks. So, Joe, where can we find you on social media tonight on March 27, 2024, this Wednesday night?
On this Wednesday night, opening day eve, you can find me on Twitter X, Joe Dal Sports, talking about baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, football, whatever you want to see on there, golf. Just my takes on the world of sports there.
And then you could always find me, yours truly, on Bill's Channel 1 at Bill's Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dog Tags on X, and also at theforkball.com, where I write about all sports. And then you can also catch me and Joe every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock on Driving to the Top Productions. And then you can also catch us every Tuesday nights during football season when we do our Bills podcast called the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room. But anyways, guys, before we sign off, you've been great listeners. Don't forget to like, hit comment, hit that subscribe button to our YouTube page, Driving to the Top Productions. Please hit that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. And thank you very much for listening, folks. And as they used to say on Sportsnet New York, Channel 46, get your New York sports here next Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. See you next week, folks.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.